are just 10 days past the trading deadline, and I know that because the Padres have played 10 games since then.
They had a day off?
Oh, they did have a day off, so I guess we're 11 days, but 10 games. And the record so far since the trading deadline is 7-3, and that is par for the course for a Padres trading deadline team. Last year, we saw them plug up quite a bit of holes on their roster and make almost all the right moves. A lot of people considered them the favorite heading into October with their bullpen last year. This year, they've strengthened the bullpen even more, and they made a series of moves to tighten up what I would say are even more holes on their roster. And I want to get into this article that I found here because AJ Preller is one of the most aggressive general managers in all of professional sports that I've ever seen. When it comes to fear of trading your up-and-coming prospect players or your draft pick kind of players that are in development, he shows no fear. And baseball is much different than other sports where basketball and the NBA and the NFL through the draft, you are almost getting like at least some instantaneous results from first-round picks, early first-round picks, especially in football where there's so many players on 22 starters, 11 on each side. There's a lot of positions that need to be filled. Therefore, there's a lot of players to choose from. And different teams have different needs. But baseball, it takes longer. You drafting someone potentially out of high school, 18 years old. The Padres usually always draft out of high school. And you have a 3-4 year journey ahead of you at least
Before
to get
you
to the
see
major
it.
leagues, to touch that grass on a daily basis, to start making that paper.
Yeah.
So you don't get that instant gratification a lot of times that you see in the NBA and the NFL in Major League Baseball. And what happens is a lot of teams, like we've seen over the past few years, like the Baltimore Orioles, they will collect and have a stacked, loaded farm system. And yet, when it comes time to do something with those pieces and fill in the holes on your actual roster to turn you from a competitive playoff team to a world title contending team, well, the Orioles just didn't cash in their chips at the right time, and they wound up having a crooked roster. They had players blocking other players from getting to the big league roster, and yet they were afraid to move those prospects that were either being blocked or the ones that were doing the blocking to make room for all these players, and instead they wound up with just a big mess in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So as much criticism as AJ Preller gets for being as aggressive as he is and treating prospects like poker chips, basically, I would only argue that he's at least making it interesting and fun. When you wake up as a Padres fan on deadline day, you just have this feeling that something special is going to get done, whether it's Juan Soto, and whether it's Tanner Scott last year, or whether it's this year getting Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, and like Mason Miller. AJ Preller is a man on a mission. He wants to bring a world championship and a parade to San Diego. That is the mission. However, to the article at hand, this was written by Aaron Coloma in Sports Illustrated. He says, Padres AJ Preller, quote, drives everyone nuts, says anonymous AL executive. And when I read this headline, Nika, I just had to laugh and chuckle out loud to myself. An American League executive claimed San Diego Padres general manager and president of baseball operations, AJ Preller, quote, drives everyone nuts after another active trade deadline. The Padres made 5 trades at the deadline and brought in 7 players, addressing their needs and greatly improving their chances for a championship, although they parted with 15 players to bring in Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn, Freddie Fermin, Nestor Cortez, Jorge Quintana, and Will Wagner. And those last 2 pieces, Jorge Quintana and Will Wagner, are both in the minor leagues at different stages of their development.
Okay.
So not on the major league roster. J.P. Sears also already optioned to the minors and is more of like a 6th or 7th arm right now. Not one of our top 4 starters that's probably going to be pitching in the playoffs. So the key trade here, Preller shocked everyone at the deadline by dealing MLB number 3 prospect Leah Dallas DeVries, Leo, along with 3 other prospects in exchange for Mason Miller and JP Sears. And this was the big trade. This was the one that nobody saw coming, and it happened on deadline morning. And it was a great move by Preller, because not only did he strengthen an already pretty damn good bullpen for the Padres, but he also prevented the Dodgers from getting Mason Miller. He prevented the Cubs from getting Mason Miller. He prevented the Yankees and the Red Sox from getting Mason Miller. If Mason Miller was available, then those teams probably would have made a call for him. But AJ called. He got told he wasn't available, kept calling, asked him what it would take to get it done.
Mm-hmm. He was persistent.
He persisted, Nika.
Yes.
He persisted.
And it paid off at the end.
And this is nothing new for AJ Preller. As the article points out, the Padres pulled a similar stunt in 2024, making 4 deals at the deadline and sending out 9 total prospects, 6 of whom were in their top 12. Quote, he basically kept multiple teams on the hook as he shopped DeVries, said the executive to MLB's Mark Feinsand. Quote, he was a buyer, but kind of operated like a seller in terms of auctioning off DeVries to the highest bidder, end quote. And I just want to pause here for a second and say, like, what's he supposed to do?
That's his job.
That's his actual job, is to get the most for his players. So if he's not shopping them around and acting like a seller when he has this piece that he's willing to part with, how many teams, the Cubs come to mind, are prospect hugging? And they're not willing to give up. They're not willing to give up. Yeah, the Orioles, we talked about them, but the Cubs this year come to mind from this season. Mm-hmm. It's like they weren't willing to part with Kevin Alcantara, or they're not willing to part with Owen Casey. So what? You don't get the players that you potentially could have had to plug your roster. How's the Cubs offense look right now? How's the Cubs starting pitching depth look right now? How's the Cubs bullpen look ever? No, just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. That executive sounds like he's just,
because he didn't do these moves,
not willing to part with prospects. And AJ Preller is. I just pointed out why getting Mason Miller was such a huge move, not just for the strengthening of your own team, but from preventing him from going to other teams.
Absolutely.
Emmanuel Clase was supposed to be the big closer that was going to be on the block at the trading deadline, and yet
he's on a different block.
He's on a different block now. He doesn't even have a locker anymore.
Well,
so
he's on a different block.
Yes. And so when he had the audacity, I think, to sniff out Mason Miller from the Athletics, I think that's what pisses people off more, is like, wait, the A's said he wasn't available to us. How did he get him?
Well, right, because you're not being persistent. You're not calling A's every day, and AJ did.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Baseball and shopping is one of those where you don't take no for an answer kind of jobs. If you really want something,
you got to hustle.
And they didn't want to take no for an answer on Jarren Duran for weeks. They kept getting told no by the Red Sox, and they kept asking, and like we kept seeing the rumors, and here we are. They didn't get Jarren Duran. They got Mason Miller instead, but they probably would have had to give up those pieces to get Jarren Duran, and they didn't want to necessarily give up those pieces for Jarren Duran. They did give up those pieces for Mason Miller. Interesting. All right. The article continues. The Padres weren't the only ones who went all in at this season's deadline, though, as contenders across the league raced to snatch up valuable assets from selling teams. The Seattle Mariners got 2 of the Arizona Diamondbacks' best bats, and we did a separate video about that, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. The Philadelphia Phillies brought in Johan Duran to reinforce their bullpen, and the Texas Rangers created what could be the best rotation in the league. I don't know about that last one yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. Eovaldi's back and he looks healthy. Jacob deGrom has reinvented himself, and every pitcher should follow suit in Major League Baseball. And also now Merrill Kelly is wearing the Texas Rangers uniform. This was kind of similar to them getting Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals a few years ago. So, yeah, they have a strong starting staff. Not going to deny that, but they're not even a playoff team right now. So they got to get into contention first before we start to really take them seriously, right?
Yes.
The moves seem to have paid off for the Padres so far, as they're 4-2 since the July 31st deadline. And yeah, they are 7-3 now since the deadline, as we updated you. This article is just a couple days old. They have pulled within 2 games of the LA Dodgers, who have led the division since the beginning of the season and have struggled as of late. And as you will know if you follow baseball, that lead is now just 1 game. heading into tonight's festivities. It is Tuesday, August 12th as we record this. Just want to make that known because these are changing on a daily basis, Nika. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, AJ seems to have ruffled some feathers this time, doesn't it seem? You know, he did this a couple years ago with Juan Soto. He, of course, traded Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel III, and the great James Wood to get Juan Soto, and that didn't work out.
For the Padres.
For the Padres that year because, one of the reasons why is because Fernando got popped right around that time, and then we didn't get the super team. We had to get the super team delayed by a few months, and who knows if that was disruptive. Nevertheless, AJ proving once again that he is not afraid to get rid of prospects. And I just found this whole story amusing. I also want to point out for all the people that are complaining about AJ trading Leodalis DeVries, an 18-year-old switch hitting shortstop who was the number 3 overall prospect in all of Major League Baseball, right? Mm-hmm. He's just 18, Nika.
I know.
Ethan Salas was the flavor of the year before, and yet he had a huge back injury this year, and he actually fell from the start of this year, the 27th overall prospect in all of baseball, now to number 85.
Well, future is not guaranteed, and
Nothing
you cannot
is guaranteed in
hold
baseball.
on to those prospects because you hoping by 2030 they're gonna be up and running and that you're gonna have a super team.
These
Doesn't
teams
work like
are
this.
starting to forecast out, and we're going to do a story on this later in the week, so no spoilers, but teams are starting to forecast out like 7, 8, 10 years in advance of like their scout. Like, what are you looking at 13-year-olds or something? Like,
Well, that's fine. You can look at 13-year-old, that's fine, but that doesn't translate 1-to-1 that they're going to be great at
not
18
at all. They
or
haven't
20.
even gone through puberty yet.
Exactly.
For gosh sakes, Jesus.
Their
Let their
balls
balls
have-
drop.
I was going to say that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I want to point out Jorge Quintana is a piece that came over from the Brewers late on the trading deadline, and he is also a switch hitting shortstop who is 18 years old. And while Leodalis DeVries is probably the one everyone would bet on right now, it's baseball. And we have seen so many prospects fall flat, fall short. Some never even make the damn show. And so there's no telling where both of these kids. My point is Jorge Quintana could wind up being the whole steal of this entire trade deadline, and nobody would know it yet.
Right.
Everyone could have their eyes on Leodalis DeVries, and yet this kid, Jorge Quintana, he could develop into being even better than him.
You just don't know.
So whether you like the move or not, you can't say that AJ didn't go out and get a replacement. He got another 18-year-old switch hitting shortstop.
That's
So
true.
funny stuff to me, and kind of ironic that, you know, people point to DeVries and nobody knows anything.
No,
Nobody
and
knows
people
anything yet.
just go by their emotions and their emotional attachments to prospects. Oh, we had such a farm and now we don't have it. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? There will be new prospects next year.
Well, and there will be new management with a lot of these teams
Exactly.
in a few years too, because general managers will get fired, managers will get fired, and the opinions about those players that were drafted will change.
Look what happened with Devers.
Look what
Ron
happened
manager.
with Devers. His former GM signs him to a 10-year deal, says like, you're the third baseman of the future for the Boston Red Sox, and then new GM comes in,
And you're like, oh,
new manager comes in, and it's like, yeah, you're still the third baseman of the future, and oh wait, whoops, we signed Alex Bregman. You're not the third baseman of the future anymore. Like, what? Like, no one wants to work in that kind of environment either, and that's what this is. It's a job. So anyways, this was funny. Go Padres. Keep making those deals, AJ. You make trading deadline fascinating for me and Nika. We love it.